Alright, I thought I'd do a small video of me showing off some of my Leachianus geckos. These are just a few of the ones I don't give them names. I've found that when you name stuff, you get attached to it, and I'm just not really ready to do that at this point. This right here is a pure Isle E Leachianus, and if you're not familiar with the Leachianus geckos, they are what we call locale specific, meaning that there are various locations that they're from, and they have slightly different characteristics depending on which location they come from. And this is a species that exists in an island system, so each subtype, as we would call it, from the different islands has some different characteristics. This gecko is about 75, 78 grams, something like that, somewhere in that range, and it's a female. One of the distinguishing characteristics of the Isle E Leachianus is they have eyes that are a little bit smaller in relation to their head size, which is different than the other ones I'm going to show you, the Nuamis and the Nuanas. Of all the island types, they get the largest. So some of these guys can get 13 inches total length, and that's not going to be as big as your Grand Terre individuals. This female right here does not have a whole lot of color, but the Isle E's can have quite a bit of color. Typically they get more coloration as they get older. I wonder if I can focus this better. Maybe there. So hopefully she will develop some coloration. I'm not certain at this time if I'm going to actually breed her or if I'm going to try and sell her. So, but she's a really neat animal, really good addition to my collection. You can kind of get a view of the pattern that she has. She's got kind of a good green base color, and then most of the Leachies have kind of white striping, and your colorful individuals will typically get the various colors inside the lighter striping, but they all typically have kind of a mossy green base color. At least all the island types do. Some of the Grand Terre individuals get really dark. They all have the coolest eyes. Alright. The next one that I'm going to show you is a female that's a little older. She's about a year and a half. It takes these guys, it takes the island types, it takes them about 2 years to get full grown. The Grand Terres, it takes longer because they get more size on them. This is a pure Nuana female. And one characteristics of the Nuanas and the Nuamis is they almost kind of have like a bug-eyed kind of look. And I'm not sure if you can tell, but they have very large eyes in proportion to the size of their head, and they kind of have a short, pronounced snout. And the males, it's even more so. The females tend to have kind of a narrow, more elongated head, whereas the males, and I'll show you a male here in a second, has kind of a shorter, stockier head. But again, a really nice base color, good green, kind of a mossy color, and their color really fluctuates throughout the day. During the nighttime, like any other rhacodactylid gecko, they kind of, what people call fire up, meaning, they kind of get darker, and the darks get darker, and the lights get lighter, and so they have a really neat look to them. All reptiles, to some extent, have some ability to kind of alter the shape and character of their coloration, and it's not something that they do consciously. It's based on environmental cues. And so a good example of this, if you keep crested geckos or leachies or something, you might notice sometime if they're sleeping and half of them is covered by a leaf or something like that, if you'll peel that leaf back, you'll notice that half of their body is dark. It's quote-unquote fired up. And that's just simply because in the absence of light, the what you call chromatophores, which are the skin pigments that are in charge, if you want to call it that, of the coloration. They are altered and into a state that's more conducive to a dark atmosphere, which would be dark skin, because it'd be much easier to hide. And then the part of the skin that's exposed is going to still be light, and that's because the chromatophores in that particular area of the animal are in an environment that's lighter, and so it's just a natural phenomenon that happens. It's not anything, there's no neurological signal. The gecko doesn't think it's time to be dark, it's time to fire up, or anything like that. Humidity also has the same effect. You'll notice at your reptile trade shows, you always have the animals in some deli cup, and they're have always got some moisture in there with them, and that's partly for the husbandry of the animals, but also you take a gecko and you put it in a deli cup with some high humidity, and you'll notice after 15-20 minutes it's really fired up and the colors look really bright, and that's, I think, a lot of times kind of a marketing issue there. But again, this is a pure new Anna, and she's about 110 grams, so she's about 60-70 grams away from being breedable. The new Annas don't need to get quite as large. Obviously, they don't get as large as the Grand Terres, and a lot of the Grand Terres get up to about 300 grams. So it doesn't take these guys as long to get up to breeding size. This next one I'm going to show you is a male. And this is a cross between, this is full grown, so you can see how much bigger he is. And he's about 180 grams. He was a little more than that, but he lost his tail. And you can tell that he has a really stocky build. He's got a really short snout, and his head is very bulky, and his shoulders are bulky, and he's just kind of thick and stocky and stout. And he's also got a lot of good coloration on him. This guy is the result of a new Anna and a new Ami being bred together, so it's a new Anna, new Ami cross, and those typically are the most colorful of all the lychees. And I don't know if you can tell, but he's got lots of red. He won't really sit still long enough, but he's got lots of reds and pinks and other such type colors in him, and so he's a real good looking boy. But he's got a little damage to him. He got into a little scrap with his cage mate. They've been breeding the last couple years, and I think the end of this last breeding season they decided to have a little scuffle, so I've got them separated. But he's a really neat individual, and this is what a full-grown, pull it back to give it a little more scale, this is what a full-grown island-type gecko is going to look like, about how big they're going to be. So he's really cool, really strong. These guys, you wouldn't believe the strength that they have in their fingers and in their claws. You get him wrapped around a branch and you try to pull him out, and it's a challenge. It's a difficult task. And they've got all these extra skin folds, and there's a lot of speculation as to what that's for. Some people think that it's for damage control of some sort. These guys are real aggressive, and typically when they breed or when they fight, they'll grab around the neck. Now, all rhacodactylids will, during their breeding behavior, the males will grab the females around the throat. And that's the way they hold on while they copulate. But these guys are so aggressive. Some people think having this extra fold of skin kind of prevents tearing and ripping when they get grabbed around here. So that's one of, I think, a couple competing hypotheses of why they have all these extra skin folds. All right, this last one I'm going to show you is my favorite, and not because of its coloration or anything like that. She's not really that beautiful of an individual, but it's just the bloodline that she comes from is really special. This is a full-grown female. She is a new Ami, new Anna cross, so she's a result of two different island localities being bred together. If you heard that whistle, I don't know if that came up on the video, but these guys, they have a very high-pitched whistle, and almost sometimes they combine that with a growl, and it's a very interesting vocalization. But she's kind of your typical new Ami, new Anna. And I said her bloodline was kind of special. Her parents are actually wild-caught individuals, so I think it's kind of neat to think that her mom and dad at one time were scurrying around the forests of New Caledonia, and she is from Felipe de Vassili's stock. So he actually went to New Caledonia and by hand captured the parents of this particular gecko, and I think that's kind of a neat thing, a neat bloodline to be working with, and I'm very appreciative to be able to take part in that. These guys do have a really nice prehensile tail. I doubt they hang from it like a possum, but it does kind of help them to hold on as they're swinging from, well, not swinging, but they're jumping and crawling from branch to branch. But this is about what you can expect, the size that you can expect to get from a Nuami or a Nuana when they're full grown. Now, all of these geckos grow their whole life. Most reptiles grow their whole life, but it's just their growth slows down. So, in the first couple of years of life, they may gain 9 inches of growth, and in the last 20 of their life, they only may grow another inch or another 3/4 inch. So they're going to continue to grow, but it's just going to be very slow, and that's typical for most reptiles. A lot of snakes are that way. If you've got a boa, they'll put on a lot of size in the first 4 or 5 years, and then throughout the next 20 years, they'll barely grow at all, but they will still grow. And she was whistling quite a bit while I was talking there, and I'm not sure if that sound comes out on the camera or not. There it was again. But these guys, they're just amazing animals. I'm very fortunate to be able to breed them and work with them. So I hope you enjoyed seeing them.